My name is Ethan Vance, and up until a few weeks ago, I figured I had the world more or less figured out. My dad, he's Richard Vance. Yeah, the Richard Vance, the guy whose name is on half the new buildings downtown. So, you can imagine, I didn't exactly grow up wanting for much. Money was just there, like air. And I guess, without really thinking about it, I started to believe that people who didn't have it, well, they just weren't as smart, or as driven, or as important as people like us. Awful, I know. But it's the truth. This particular Tuesday started like any other. I woke up late in my downtown condo, sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the park. I had a vague memory of needing to get a birthday gift for my cousin, Amelia. She was turning 16. What do you get a 16-year-old? I had no clue. Usually, I'd just tell Dad's assistant, Maria, to pick something out, but Maria was on vacation, and Dad had made some comment about me needing to take more responsibility for personal matters. Fine. I grabbed my keys, wallet, and phone and headed out. I decided to try that new boutique lifestyle store, the Gilded Sparrow, that had opened up a few blocks away. It sounded pretentious enough to have something Amelia might like, or at least something expensive enough to look like I'd put thought into it. The store was busy. Too busy for my liking. People milling about, touching things. I hate crowds. I finally spotted a display of delicate silver necklaces and figured one of those would do. I picked one with a little bird charm. Gilded Sparrow, bird charm, made sense, right? Then came the waiting. There was only one person at the cash register, a woman, and she was dealing with an older lady who seemed to be having trouble with her credit card. The older lady was flustered, fumbling in her purse, apologizing. The clerk, though, she was patient. Annoyingly patient from my perspective. She had this calm, soft voice. "It's quite all right, dear. Take your time." Sometimes, these machines can be a bit temperamental. I huffed, shifting my weight from one foot to the other, and made sure to glance pointedly at my watch, a Patek Philippe, a gift from Dad for my 21st. The clerk didn't seem to notice, or if she did, she didn't let on. She just kept smiling gently at the older woman. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the transaction was complete. The older woman shuffled off, still apologizing, and it was my turn. "Sorry about that," the clerk said, her smile still in place. She looked tired, though. Her hair, a simple brown, was pulled back in a ponytail, and there were faint shadows under her eyes. She wasn't wearing much makeup, if any. Plain, I thought. Just ordinary. "What can I get for you today?" I plonked the necklace box on the counter. "Just this." My tone was clipped. I was already irritated from the wait. She picked it up. "Oh, this is a lovely choice. It's one of our most popular pieces." She started to ring it up, her fingers moving efficiently over the keypad. "Yeah, well, let's hope it's popular enough. For a teenager," I muttered, mostly to myself, but loud enough for her to hear. She glanced up, a flicker of something in her eyes. Surprise? Hurt? I didn't care. "I'm sure she'll love it," she said, her voice still soft, but maybe a little less warm. Then, the card machine decided to act up with me too. "Insufficient funds," it declared. "What? That's impossible," I snapped. "Run it again. It's a platinum card." She tried. Same result. I was fuming now. This was ridiculous. "There's plenty of money in that account. Your machine is obviously broken." "I can try a different machine, sir," she offered, her voice even, though I could see a slight flush on her cheeks. She moved to the terminal beside her. While she was doing that, my phone buzzed. A text from my bank. "Unusual spending pattern detected. Card temporarily frozen. Please call to verify." Great, just great. This day was getting worse. "Look," I said, snatching the card back before she could try again. "This is clearly a waste of time. Some people are just destined to scan barcodes their whole lives, I guess, and can't even get that right." The words were out before I could stop them, sharp and mean. I saw her flinch, her eyes widen almost imperceptibly, and her lips pressed together. For a moment, she just looked at me, and there was a deep sadness in her eyes that, even in my anger, pricked at something inside me. but I was too proud, too annoyed to acknowledge it. I don't have time for this, I said, tossing a couple of $100 bills on the counter, more than enough for the necklace. Keep the change. Maybe you can use it to buy a new card reader. I grabbed the necklace box, didn't even wait for a bag, and stormed out, feeling a perverse sense of satisfaction at having, I thought, put her in her place. I got into my car, still fuming about the bank, the store, the clerk. The whole world felt inefficient and annoying. I called the bank, sorted out the card. Apparently, a large online purchase I'd made the night before had triggered their fraud alert. Typical. I didn't think about the store clerk again for the rest of the day. Why would I? She was just some random person, a face in the crowd, someone who, in my mind, didn't really matter. That evening, Dad was home earlier than usual. He was in his study, a glass of scotch in his hand, looking out the window. He had a way of being quiet that was louder than any shouting. "Ethan," he said, not turning around. "Come in." I walked in, a sense of unease creeping up on me. "Hey, Dad, what's up?" He finally turned, and his face was serious. Disappointed. That was always worse than anger. "I had a call today," he said slowly. "From Jeanette, who manages the Gilded Sparrow." My stomach dropped. "The Gilded Sparrow. Oh no, she told me about an incident, about a young man being exceptionally rude to one of her staff." I felt my face heat up. "Dad, it was nothing. The machine wasn't working, I was in a hurry." He held up a hand, silencing me. "She also told me the staff member's name. Sarah Miller." He paused, letting the name hang in the air. It meant nothing to me. "Sarah Miller," he repeated, his voice heavy with a significance I couldn't grasp. "Does that name ring any bells for you, Ethan?" I shook my head, confused. "No. Should it?" Dad sighed, a deep, weary sound. He walked over to his bookshelf and pulled out an old, slightly battered photo album. I'd seen it before, filled with pictures from before he made his fortune, pictures from a life I couldn't really imagine him living. He opened it to a page with a faded photograph. A younger version of my dad, grinning, arm in arm with another man. This other man had a kind, open face, laugh lines around his eyes, and he was holding a little girl on his shoulders, a girl with pigtails and a gap-toothed smile. "This," Dad said, tapping the man, "is Tom Miller. And this little girl," he tapped the child, "is his daughter, Sarah." My blood ran cold. Sarah, the store clerk. "Tom Miller," Dad continued, his voice thick with emotion, "was my first business partner. More than that, he was my mentor, my friend. When I had nothing but a half-baked idea and a whole lot of ambition, Tom believed in me. He owned a small hardware store back then, nothing fancy. He mortgaged that store, Ethan. He put his family's security on the line to give me the seed money for my first company." I stared at the picture, then back at my dad, my mind reeling. The store clerk, her father. "Tom was the kindest, most generous man I've ever known," Dad said, his eyes distant, lost in memory. "He taught me about business, sure, but more than that, he taught me about integrity, about treating people with respect, no matter who they are. He used to say, 'Richard, money comes and goes, but your character, your reputation, that's what defines you.'" He closed the album softly. "We lost touch over the years after I moved the business here and things really took off. Life happens. I heard Tom's business eventually went under a few years after a bad investment. He had some health problems too, I believe. I tried to find him, offer help, but he was a proud man. He'd moved, and I couldn't track him down." He looked straight at me, his gaze piercing. "Jeanette mentioned Sarah has been working at the Gilded Sparrow for about 6 months. She's trying to save up, help her family. Her father, Tom, passed away last year. She's been supporting her mother." The weight of his words crashed down on me. The things I'd said. Some people are just destined to scan barcodes their whole lives. The casual cruelty of it, directed at the daughter of the man who had essentially given my father his start, the man whose belief had paved the way for the very fortune I so arrogantly enjoyed. I felt sick. Truly, physically sick. My face was burning with shame. Dad, I had no idea, I stammered, the words feeling hollow even to my own ears. No, Ethan, you didn't, he said, and there was such profound sadness in his voice. But that's not the point. You shouldn't need to know who someone is to treat them with basic human decency. You should treat everyone with respect, whether they're a CEO or a store clerk, because you don't know their story. You don't know what battles they're fighting. He paused. Tom Miller gave me a chance when no one else would. He saw potential in me. And his daughter. His daughter was treated like she was nothing by my son. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The quiet condemnation in his tone was more cutting than any shout. I'm so disappointed, Ethan. Not just in what you did, but in what it says about who you're becoming. He turned back to the window, and I knew I was dismissed. I stumbled out of the study, my legs feeling like lead. I went to my room, but the luxury of it, the expensive art on the walls, the designer furniture, it all felt suffocating, obscene. I kept seeing her face, Sarah Miller's face. The tiredness in her eyes, the quiet patience she'd shown the older woman, the way she'd flinched when I'd thrown those cruel words at her. And then I'd see the photo. A smiling little girl on her father's shoulders. A father who had risked everything for a friend. My father. The shame was a living thing inside me, coiling in my gut, tightening my chest. How could I have been so blind, so arrogant, so horrible? The money, the privilege, it had insulated me, made me soft and mean. I judged her on her job, on her appearance, never once considering she was a human being with her own life, her own struggles, her own dignity. I replayed the scene at the store over and over in my head. My dismissive tone, my impatient sighs, my final, terrible insult. Keep the change. Maybe you can use it to buy a new card reader. The sheer, unadulterated snobbery of it made me want to curl up and disappear. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sarah Miller's face. I saw the disappointment in my father's eyes. I saw Tom Miller, a man I'd never met but whose kindness had indirectly shaped my entire existence. By morning, I knew what I had to do. It wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't undo what I'd done. But I had to try. I drove back to the Gilded Sparrow. It wasn't open yet. I parked across the street and just sat there, my heart pounding in my chest like a trapped bird. What was I going to say? Sorry I was a colossal jerk yesterday? It sounded so inadequate. I saw a figure unlock the front door and go inside. It looked like her. Sarah. I took a deep breath, the kind you take before diving into icy water. This was going to be awful. I deserved for it to be awful. I got out of the car and walked across the street. My hands were sweating. I pushed open the door. The little bell above it jingled, a cheerful sound that felt entirely out of place with the turmoil inside me. She was behind the counter, just like yesterday, organizing some papers. She looked up when the bell rang and her eyes met mine. For a second, there was just surprise. Then, a guardedness fell over her face. Her smile, the polite customer service smile, was gone. She just looked at me, waiting. Hi, I began, my voice hoarse. Sarah? Sarah Miller? She nodded slowly, her expression unreadable. Yes? I'm Ethan Vance. I felt like I should identify myself as if she wouldn't remember the entitled brat from the day before. I remember, she said, her voice quiet, flat. The air was thick with unspoken things. I swallowed hard. This was harder than any business presentation, any exam I'd ever taken. I came to apologize, I managed, the words feeling clumsy and small. For yesterday, for how I behaved, for what I said. She didn't say anything, just watched me. Her stillness was unnerving. There's no excuse for it, I continued, forcing myself to meet her gaze. I was rude and arrogant and cruel. What I said about your job, about you, it was inexcusable. I am so, so sorry. She tilted her head slightly. Why the change of heart, Mr. Vance? She asked, her voice still quiet, but with an edge of steel I hadn't noticed yesterday. Did your father tell you to come here? The question caught me off guard. It was partly true. His disappointment had been the catalyst, but the shame, the remorse, that was all mine. My father? Yes, he told me who you were, who your father was to him, I admitted, feeling my face flush again. And I'm ashamed. Ashamed that I'm the son of a man your father helped so much and I treated you like that. I rushed on. But even if I hadn't found that out, what I did was wrong. It doesn't matter who your father was or who mine is. Nobody deserves to be spoken to like that. I was a spoiled brat and I took my bad mood out on you. And I am truly, deeply sorry for the hurt I caused. She was silent for a long moment, her eyes searching mine. I could see the weariness in them again, but also a strength, a resilience that I had been too blind to see before. My father, she said finally, her voice softening just a little, taught me a lot of things. One of them was that a person's worth isn't measured by their bank account or their job title, but by their character, by how they treat others, especially those they don't have to be kind to. Her words were like little daggers, each one finding its mark. He was a good man, she added, a flicker of warmth in her eyes now, a touch of pride. He faced a lot of hardship, especially towards the end, but he never lost his kindness, his dignity. She looked at me directly. You insulted my work, Mr. Vance. This job, it's not what I dreamed of, no. But it's honest work. It helps me pay the bills. It helps me support my mother. There's no shame in that. The shame is in looking down on someone for doing it. I nodded, unable to speak for a moment. You're right, I finally said, my voice thick. You're absolutely right. I was so wrong. I don't expect you to forgive me. I needed to tell you how sorry I am. I reached into my pocket. Before I left the house, I'd gone to an ATM. I pulled out an envelope. I know this doesn't fix anything, I said, holding it out. But yesterday I was an idiot about the payment. And I was horrible. Please, this is for the trouble I caused, and more. It was a significant amount of cash, far more than the necklace, far more than any tip could justify. I just felt this desperate need to try and make some kind of material amends, even though I knew it was a pathetic gesture. Sarah looked at the envelope, then back at me. She didn't take it. Mr. Vance, she said, and her voice was gentle now, but firm. I appreciate the apology. It takes courage to admit when you're wrong, especially face to face. She paused. But I can't accept that. She gestured to the envelope. My father also taught me about pride. Not the arrogant kind, but the kind that means you earn your way. You don't take handouts you haven't earned. My hand faltered. I felt a fresh wave of shame, but this time mixed with a grudging respect. Your apology, she continued. If it's sincere, that's enough. More than enough. I slowly lowered my hand, the envelope feeling heavy and useless. It is sincere, I said, my voice barely a whisper. More than you know. She gave me a small, sad smile. I believe you, she said. People make mistakes. It's what you do after, how you learn from them. That matters. She looked around the quiet store, then back at me. I have to get ready to open now, Mr. Vance. It was a polite dismissal. I nodded. Of course. Thank you, Sarah, for listening. Ethan, she said as I turned to leave. I stopped, looked back. Your father is a good man, she said. My dad always said so. He'd be glad to know Richard Vance remembers him. Then she added very softly, and I think he'd be glad you came to apologize. That, more than anything, felt like a sliver of absolution. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a recognition that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't entirely a lost cause. I walked out of the Gilded Sparrow feeling different. Lighter in a way, because I'd faced her. I'd apologized. But heavier too, with the full understanding of my own failings and the long road I had ahead if I truly wanted to change. The world didn't look the same. The people I passed on the street, the barista who made my coffee later that morning, the cleaner in my office building, I saw them differently. They weren't just background characters in my life anymore. They were people like Sarah with their own stories, their own struggles, their own dignity. When I saw Dad that evening, he didn't ask. He just looked at me, a question in his eyes. "I went to see her," I said. "I apologized." He nodded slowly. "And?" She's an amazing person, Dad. Strong, kind. Like her father, I guess." A faint smile touched his lips. Yes, she is." I offered her money, I confessed, shamefaced. She wouldn't take it. Dad chuckled, a dry, knowing sound. No, a Miller wouldn't. Tom was the same. Stubborn pride, but the good kind. He put a hand on my shoulder. "This isn't just about Sarah, Ethan, or Tom. This is about you. About the man you want to be." "I know," I said. And for the first time, I really did. It's been a few weeks since then. It's not like I'm suddenly a saint. Change is slow, but I'm trying. I think about what Dad said, what Sarah said. I try to listen more, to judge less. I actually started volunteering at a soup kitchen, downtown. It's hard work, humbling work, peeling potatoes, serving food, cleaning up. Some of the people who come in, they have stories that would break your heart. And yet, there's so much resilience, so much humanity. It's teaching me things my money could never buy. I called Dad's assistant, Maria, when she got back from vacation. I asked her if she could discreetly find out what Sarah Miller's mother's situation was. If there was a mortgage, medical, bills. Not for a handout, Dad and I talked about that. But Dad remembered Tom had a passion for restoring antique clocks. Dad thought maybe there was a way to set up a small foundation or a scholarship for craftspeople in Tom Miller's name. Something that would honor his memory and perhaps indirectly ease things for Sarah and her mother in a way that respected their pride. Maria is looking into it. I haven't been back to the Gilded Sparrow. I feel like I should give Sarah space. But sometimes, when I'm walking by, I look in. If she's at the counter, she's usually busy, helping a customer, always, with that same quiet patience. Just once, she happened to look up as I was passing. Our eyes met for a brief second. She gave me a small, almost imperceptible nod. Not a smile, not exactly, but not hostility either. Just acknowledgement. It was enough. I know I have a long way to go. Undoing years of entitlement isn't an overnight process. But that encounter, that awful, shameful moment when I insulted Sarah Miller and the subsequent revelation of who she really was, it was like a splash of cold water in my face. It woke me up. My name is Ethan Vance. I'm the son of a millionaire, and I'm finally starting to understand what it means to be a decent human being. It's not about the money in your bank account or the name on your credit card. It's about the respect you show to others, the kindness you offer, the character you build. Sarah Miller, the store clerk, taught me that. And in a strange way, I'll always be grateful to her for it. Grateful for her dignity, which shone a light on my own lack of it and gave me a chance to start finding my way.